Hi, Tina.
Hey girl.
Girl, I am excited for us to talk about our topic today.
Ooh, what is it? Is it
Girl,
juicy?
girl. That
Oh,
was a quiver. It was. It was. Girl, careers. How many of us have them?
ooh, ooh.
Because let's be real, sometimes it feels like we're working jobs and not careers,
Mm,
right?
mm-hmm.
Unpack that. You ready?
You know what? Let's play our intro first, and then let's get into it, because we're gonna have to breathe through this, y'all.
Play it. Welcome. Now that you've had the moment to breathe
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
and prepared, gather thyself, okay, for this topic. Tina, I'm gonna be asking some questions. I'm gonna answer these questions myself. This isn't just an interrogation. We are in this together, okay? I just want
We're in
you
it
to know
together.
we are
Okay.
in this together. All right. We're gonna start off. What did you think your career would be and what would it look like?
Okay. So, as a young woman, I
Mhm.
definitely thought I was going to be singing. I thought I was going to dip my toe into acting later on.
I remember
Um,
that. Oh, okay.
mhm. Actually, Tanisha has a yearbook, and I wrote something about being on the Grammys as like before we went off for summer vacation. I don't know if you remember that, but I
I'm
wrote
like, wait, it's in my yearbook?
it's in your yearbook. You should go get your yearbook.
I'm like, it's in this closet, but it is definitely in some boxes. I'm gonna have
Oh, yeah, yeah. I just remember like saying something like "See you at the Grammys." I legitimately thought I was going to be an artist of some sort. And then later on, I guess in my 20s, I thought I was going to be not only singing, but I was going to be the CEO of a recording studio. So I remember I started that business plan. I still have it somewhere. I'm not sure where, but yeah, I definitely thought I was going to be the CEO of a recording studio. I was going to be acting as a liaison for different acts. So if you were a songwriter, I was going to be connecting you with a singer. If you were a producer, I was going to be connecting you with artists. So yeah, that was my idea that cost a ton of money, but I believed I was going to be doing it.
well,
Yeah.
I have to
So what
ask.
about you?
Oh yeah, okay. Well, then I'll hold my questions.
Yeah, yeah. You answer this question,
Yeah,
young
yeah,
lady.
okay. So, ironically enough, as we've talked about for many of episodes, how Tina and I met it was singing. So obviously, as a little girl, I too thought I would be a singer. Then I moved to Fort Worth, Texas, and I heard the rest of these sixth graders sing like grown women, and I was like, you know what? We're gonna be in the background and do this for fun. So they breed gospel artists in Fort Worth. That's all I would say.
Shout
But
out to Cleveland.
funny enough, I that transition from wanting to be an artist to wanting to be in the music business. And so my goal was to actually major in pretty much like entertainment marketing, and end up working for a label.
Oh my
Actually,
goodness.
I would have loved to have been an A&R. Like there was a
Like
very
Mona from One on One. Or not One on One.
like
Oh,
Mona Scott Young.
half and half.
Yes, yes, yes. I would have loved to have been an A&R. There was a moment where I thought like that was, and when I say a moment, I'm like, I don't even know if Tina and I have ever really talked about that, but yes, that was the whole reason for me to actually go to the University of Miami for those specific degrees. And yeah, to go and work in the music business, like that was my goal. It was from wanting to be on the stage to actually go and be in the business part of it. That immediately changed. Well, there's two reasons why it changed. One, I had an opportunity my senior year of high school. I was a student council nerd. I not only was a choir nerd, I was a Stuco nerd. Proud of it. And I wanted to be a parliamentarian my senior year because I didn't want to do much. And I lost that race. And so there's a point to all of this, people. There's a point to all of this. But I did not. And my Stuco sponsor was like, he didn't say that he rigged the election, but he was actually prepared. I think he realized that a lot of people were going to vote for someone else. And he actually wanted me to be in a completely different role anyway. So he wasn't trying to console me for much. And so he wanted me to be in charge of the spirit committee. And that was the very first time that I ever did anything with an event. And I was hooked. So I actually attest and thank Mr. Ostrowski, Sam Houston High School, 2003, I think that year it was.
Are we ready for this? Are you ready?
Sam,
Sam, Sam,
Houston, Sam,
Sam, Sam.
Houston. Yes. So yes, I absolutely I thank him for even seeing obviously something in myself that I did not see. But the bug was, I mean, yeah, yeah, it was there. And so I was still able to kind of stay in that same mind frame of what I was planning on majoring in. But I was sold on what I knew I wanted my career to be. Now, there have been different variations of what I thought, like there was still like a plan to kind of be in the entertainment industry. But still being able to focus on kind of the event side of things. But yeah, from the time that we walked away or walked across that stage in Nokia Theater, I knew that I would be in events. So,
I too knew that she would be.
because who planned all of our random surprise birthday parties with like, we had no money. We had no money. Ah,
Wow.
yes. Okay. So my next question for you, because you had you had an idea, or you had, I mean, this is actually more than an idea for you, right? This has been a passion and a drive for those different areas in entertainment. How did you pivot?
I kind of had to.
Mm,
Um, so this isn't going to be as lively as Tanisha's story, unfortunately, but I knew Remnant, and that is what I had named the company I was planning on being the CEO of. I knew that I wasn't going to be able to enter into that space until I became a legitimate gospel artist. So that's what I was looking to do. I was looking to sing initially and then break through to the business side of things. And unfortunately, I had some negative experiences with a few producers when I was recording in high school, when I was recording in college. I won't say I necessarily had negative experiences in college, it was just some negative situations occurred. So, unfortunately, I never really got to see an album release until I was, how old was I?
Um,
What year was that? 2017?
or was it 2016?
Oh, 2016? Okay.
Yeah, I feel like it's 2016.
Well, I think I was in my early 30s. Um, and that album did not sell. And so for someone who spent thousands of dollars on something and then it didn't sell, and on top of that, I thought at that point I had support. Now, those who did support me, I truly appreciated it. But I thought I had more support than that. So
Mm,
when reality hit that, no, you don't, I was like, okay, I'm going to have to find a way to make what I'm doing right now work.
gotcha. And that makes complete sense. I mean, you're segueing so good into the
All
next
right.
questions. I'm like, but I gotta hold on. I gotta hold on. Let me just jump to mine so we can get back to you. Okay, obviously from my story, and if you've watched any of our previous episodes, I am in events. I actually serve as a event and sales director for a church here in Dallas. And my career is, while kind of all over the place, it's all over the place in one industry. And so I've been able to I started off, we graduated from college in the middle of the recession. I mean, God's grace. I mean, it was lay struggle. So I started off in venue management after about a year of looking for full time work. But I finally got a full time role. Started off at, I mean, honestly, looking back, I'm like, this is God's hand all over this whole thing because my first big girl job was at the Dallas Convention Center. And I'm like, yeah, I studied event management, went to a university that was business focused, but who told me, a little girl from Kansas City, that went to Sam Houston High School, that you can work on anything for the city of Dallas. Yeah, it's crazy. So I started off in venue management and then realized that I really enjoyed the true planning portion of it. So I then moved over to the corporate and kind of transitioned into kind of nonprofit work. But still focusing on events, some fundraising, and so on. But really, again, at the core of it all, just it's always been events. I always say, if I'm not doing events, I don't know what I'm gonna be doing because I don't I, I'm not ashamed to say I don't know that I'm good at anything else. So I think that he has kept me hyper focused in this area because I know that he's called me for kind of for some things bigger than even what I could imagine, even what he's put in front of me as well, which kind of goes back into one of the things you're talking about on a little short episode where we talked about the contentment. Because even in knowing that I'm in what I know he's called me for, I still feel that there is a push for not even so much something greater, but there's a sense of not being stagnant in where he has you. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So back to you. Back to you, Julie. Okay. So realistically, the next question has to lead us into that following question. So I'm going to give you two questions in this
Okay.
one. Okay.
Okay.
It's obviously, so the pivot happened. Has it been good? And how do you honor your passion through the pivot?
Has it been good? Um, again, yes and no.
Yeah. Well, tell the people, obviously there has been a pivot, but what is the pivot? What has the pivot looked like for you?
Right. So the pivot has looked like for me corporate America. I am in training. I'm in learning and development. So I get to create trainings for all the different departments in our corporation. I am an instructional designer, so I get to tap into a little bit of my creativity there. Um, so that's the pivot. Um, is it a good pivot? Again, I don't ever want to sound ungrateful. I have a great job. They pay really well. The benefits are great. The people, my team's incredible. They're good people. My boss is amazing. It's a phenomenal place to work. And it has obviously sustained me, right? Because I'm in this lovely house. So they're paying me well. Um, it's just the fact that I know I'm meant for more.
Mm,
I look at my colleagues who get so excited when they get a new project coming down the pipeline, and I don't feel that way. And that's what kind of stings a lot of the time. These people are where they want to be, and they're pulling their satisfaction and their fulfillment from that because that's where they want to be. And I can't do that because I know I'm not supposed to be here. And I
mm,
feel like unless I was walking in my passion or my purpose or my calling, I'm not ever going to feel fulfilled. I'm not
mm.
ever going to feel completely satisfied.
Wow.
So, yeah, that's the struggle. The struggle is knowing I'm meant for more, knowing I'm called for more, and also not wanting to feel ungrateful because I am truly blessed.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, and this is the reason why I wanted to ask kind of that secondary part of the question is how do you then honor your passion? Because I mean, America ain't free. I
Mm-mm.
mean, America has a problem. Beyond
Mm-hmm.
that. It's not free. And so how do you honor your passion? And how I mean there are many of people who never live out their passion through a full-time job, right? And so how do you honor your passion while balancing or juggling that?
How could someone, or how do I specifically?
Let's say you. What say you?
So I don't.
Right. I love your honesty, but see, that's why we're here because we're
That's
caught up
why
in the
we're here.
rapture of therapy. Yes, 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 and amen. Okay, your honesty is rewarded in this space. Okay.
Glory. Glory to God. I will say this. It's popped up in my mind a few times. I do love doing this
Yeah,
podcast. It's a creative outlet for me, and this I can get really excited about.
yeah,
Like music. So
yeah.
I do like doing this. It's not the same, but it's still a way for me to, just again have a creative outlet.
Absolutely.
But I think I would love for my whole life to be creativity. So,
Mhm. I think that is amazing, right? Like, I'm not saying that you've ever put yourself in a box, but the fact that you've allowed yourself to realize, like, the way you've seen that show up in your life has been music from an early age. But for you, it really is the understanding that that passion is creativity
mhm,
for you.
absolutely.
And so being able to allow yourself the space for whatever that passion shows up in whatever different outlets as much as possible.
Hmm.
And I think that's key because I think we get so caught up in what we expect our lives to look like
Absolutely, we do.
and how we expect those things to kind of be expressed. And in reality, it's kind of like, we've talked about like there's a longing that God places in our heart, and that longing, in terms of like that longing, technically, that like that's that passion, right? Like that's the stuff that's fueling us and moving us forward. And there is something beautiful in being able to honor that feeling the same way that you had the come to Jesus moment with yourself. Like that was being able to kind of call it by name. Like, yes, I recognize that there is a passion in me, and you've called me for a space of creativity, and there may need to be something more in my life to where that is shown that
Right.
you've called me for. I
Hmm.
think that's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. And I think it's so interesting. And that's why I love for us to talk about this, because I feel like we are such polar opposites, but we agree on so much when it comes to this topic,
Right.
because you are the pivot, and I'm like, no, I'm following the path. But people, please understand, even when you follow the passion and you're doing the passion, there are some things that are going to come your way. My God. It ain't
Oh,
easy either way, people. It's not easy either
either
way.
way. Hmm.
Because I would say for me is obviously there hasn't been a major pivot, but there have been hurdles that have been important for me. I've worked for some interesting people. I've worked for some interesting organizations, and being able to discern whether or not God is calling me to stay in that space. I mean, we could actually just end the episode in that moment right now.
Wow.
And so I am it's important for me to be able to um remain focused on him, even while still being in my passion, that he is actually leading the next steps, to ensure that while it may not be a traditional pivot, that it is, if it's a new chapter in my career, that I follow it based off of what he's called me to. So it's been very important for me, to listen and
Yeah.
to kind of take stake in in making changes throughout my career. And then, how do I honor my passion if the chapter that he's called me to ain't quite it? Because if you're familiar with events, events is a very broad industry. Like, you can be in events and you can be a producer, you could be a decorator, you could be a caterer, you could be uh, an, a production lead. You can it's a very wide industry in saying you work in events. I am an events manager. I am the person who works on logistics, and my God, it's exhausting to the point to where I don't even want to plan trips for like my personal life. I'm like, if I do this for a living, like there gets to points where I'm like, I'm not making decisions in my life because I make too many decisions on the other side of this and on a daily basis. And so it gets exhausting. And so how I have to make sure that I honor, like there was a time where I worked for a tech company, and my role was to manage sponsorship and trade show event elements. So trade show booths, trade show inventory. So like collateral pieces, giveaways. As you can see from my face, it's not what he's called me for. I absolutely am not a huge fan of travel. And it was nothing but logistics when it came to traveling because it's not always the people that's traveling, it's the material. And so if it's in California and there is a major storm in Central America or Central USA, please understand that your delivery is going to be impacted by it. And so all of those elements were just exhausting.
Yeah.
And so I knew at that point that while he was still calling me to be in that role, that I needed my own outlets of the things that I really did enjoy about the industry. And so I have a love hate relationship with weddings. I love them. I love love. Tina knows this about me. I love love. And
We both
so
love love.
I do two weddings a year now because I'm also getting old, and so I can't the knees, you said it, you did, my body can't handle and my schedule can't handle it. And so I found myself wanting to do more weddings at that time, just being able to kind of get that other element of creativity again, and planning and adding the emotional part, because that's the one thing that I don't think people realize with the events. There is an emotional impact when it comes to being able to see a program come to life, no matter what it is there is a um especially with weddings, there is a moment when the groom sees his bride for the first time. There's a moment when they're having their first dance that is like no, it's like no other. And so no matter what it is, even if it's a conference, there's a moment where you see somebody in the crowd and they're like getting some type of knowledge that they wouldn't have gotten anywhere else. And so it's like there's something so special about events that happen that you can see I love it. I always say you have to be a little crazy to be at events. And so
I
that's
agree.
kind of crazy. Okay, wow. So for me, it's being able to kind of navigate where the love of the industry really sits for me, in knowing that if I'm not in that role at that moment, that I can still get that in other ways and maybe working on other projects. One of the things that I've really realized is that, again, America's not free. America has a problem. But there are opportunities. And honestly, I feel like I kind of learned this from you too, Tina. And you're going to be surprised when I say this. But being able to kind of volunteer in the industry is a way of like, you're not, it's not of a sense of having to be this full time, level of dedication, but you're able to kind of, if you've got the time and that moment to be able to give into that space, it's you're able to kind of get that enjoyment through that opportunity or through that project. So that's been important for me. So you taught me
Yeah.
something, girl.
Oh, look at me. Look at me just
Yeah.
living my life as an example. Ah, applause for me.
Wow, wow. You're just again personification of taking it too far. Yeah, can't even.
Oh
Yeah,
man. If you do
yeah.
too much with a person.
Welcome. Thank. We would like you guys to be introduced to Tina.
Hello.
Oh, okay, so since we're talking about pivoting, we're going to kind of take the conversation and pivot it a little bit, not too far off. We're not gonna veer off.
We're
Oh, come
pivoting.
back. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh man. And so we kind of talked about if we're having to kind of find and kind of live out our passions outside of our 9 to 5. kind of talk about like what that looks like, because you then still have that 9 to 5, that could be really demanding. One of the things that I think unknowingly bonds you and I, is our work ethic.
I think it's knowingly,
Oh, is it?
and I think people that know us know.
Well, I don't think that we've ever talked about
No,
it.
no, we haven't.
See, yeah, we don't talk. It's like the unspoken truth
Yeah, it's
that,
understood.
yeah, you, me, same. We are both workaholics.
Yeah.
How did we get here, Tina? I don't.
Well, I think it is the unrealistic expectations that are placed on Black women. Uh,
Whew, oh, this took a time. Go ahead. I mean, this ain't even on the look. Let me put the antennas behind. I mean, I want to like anything. We should say.
we are expected, though, to be the best. You know, I look at how many of us struggle with perfectionism, and I'm not surprised. It doesn't surprise me, honestly. The expectations that are put on us are tremendous, and they're heavy. They're heavy weights to carry, and we just do. And I'm
Mm,
not sure why we do. Maybe it's in our bloodline. Um, Maybe it came from the ancestors. I don't know, but we will work ourselves into insanity before we fail at something. And it's like, why? Why are we like this?
yeah.
I remember
No.
listening to, okay, y'all, I love Megan Thee Stallion, okay? So I'm just putting it out there. Love her. Okay. I remember watching an interview. It might have been The Breakfast Club. I'm not really sure. But she was talking about how she, had all these events and yet she was still in school because she was
Hmm.
working to get her degree. And they asked what her GPA was, and she said it was something like a 3.5, which is a B, 3.6, a B plus. And they were like, you got to get to a 4. You got to get to that 4.0. And I was like, why does she have to get to a 4.0? She's got
Because
to be average and
that
she's a
degree still
superstar.
degree. The degree still degrees.
Why are we putting that pressure on her? Why do we put that pressure on Black women?
I mean, so we're look. I'm gonna follow your lead on that one because one of the questions or topic areas was about workaholic, being a workaholic, and how it relates to. I call it the PPP, not alone,
Let alone,
but the PPP stands for perfectionism and people
mm,
pleasing. And it's like, what is, like you said, what is, where does it come from, what is it rooted in? And it's like when you really unpack, and it's come up in therapy for me because, again, girl, my god, I think the biggest part of feeling like we are failing and not meeting deadlines and so on, for me, there isn't a part of it is like the imposter syndrome, but the other part of it, the bigger part of it, is that by failing, all of the rest of this crumbles.
oh
The,
wow.
the security, the well being, the it's like he's called you to a space. But there is, and this is the thing that like Tori and I talk about often, is like having that unabashed trust that he will keep you. So like, I'm gonna be real transparent, kind of share a little bit.
Share.
So I lost my job during COVID. And Tori and I were talking about something recently, maybe in the last like few months or something. And I was going to be doing a financial fast, at the top of the year, and we were talking about something, and we were talking about my fear around money, and how I crave for stability and all of these things. And I was going on and ranting or whatever, going on some tangent that normally happens. And Tori was just sitting there letting me drive myself in the spiral so that way I can get it all out. And she just calmly and clearly stated, "But you've lost your job before." Yes, but did he not keep you? I mean, yeah, but did he keep you? And I'm like, okay, sorry. But do I really gotta go back through that again?
It's Tori being
It's just,
Tori.
let me just and you know how so calmly she comes back in and you're like, all right. Unpacking that, it has to it has to really do with a lot of level of trust and how much we're really trusting him with our life, because we've trusted him with our life, but like
Oof.
let me just keep my finger on this part though, right?
I mean, you can have your finger on it too, but also my finger needs to be
No,
here.
no, no, no. Here's the thing. You're moving it, right? Like I'm not gonna move it.
Right, right. But also,
But
I would just feel better if it were here.
what little Scrappy say? Put the paws on it. I'm gonna put my paw on it.
Oh, my Lanta.
I didn't know we were gonna quote Little Scrappy in this episode. Go ahead.
I didn't either, but you know what? It happened. I'm okay with it.
Don't
Um,
know how we got over here.
we're
Okay.
here. Oh man. So since you were transparent, uh, I'm gonna take it further. So for me, I think a lot of my, uh, what did you call it? Workaholicism.
Yeah.
I think it comes from the fact that I don't feel like I have anything else. So if I lose this, I've got nothing else. I don't have the marriage. I don't have the kids or the family. I don't have that structure or support. I don't have anything. And seeing as how I'm not even walking in my taking this back, I'm not walking in my purpose. I'm not walking in what God has called me to. I don't even have that. So
Wow.
it's pretty much like this is it for me. And if I lose it, what do I have?
So, do you feel that the space that you're walking through right now is borrowed space? So it feels very fragile for you?
What do you mean? Elaborate.
So, like, because it's not your passion and it's not what he's per se called you to based off of where your passion lies, do you feel that you're kind of like when people say on borrowed time? Do
Mm,
you feel that you're on a borrowed path and so it feels very fragile?
yeah.
Wow. I by the way, I realize like I sound like Willow a lot of times, and so you'll hear me say wow, and so I just heard it right there. Wow. Wow. No, that makes sense. And so where do you find, I mean, I already know the answer, but
Wait, what's the question?
not you. It was him being like, "Duh, this is what the answer is." I don't even know why you about to ask this question. But like, where do you find your safety and stability in that?
Oh, it's
And
yeah, it's
he was like me.
only.
Yeah, right. Duh.
Christ and Christ alone.
It's crazy you guys are talking about this thing like it's so hard to understand. You just gotta trust me. He's like, somebody pick me. No, no, no. Just
Right. Put me in the game, coach.
oh man,
Yeah.
but that's so interesting. And again, that's why I love for us to talk through it because that level of trust is needed,
Yeah.
and that level of knowing that he's leading you is needed no matter whether you feel like you're following your passion or not. Because real talk, I mean, I'm the same thing for me too. Like it's terrifying because I don't want to fumble my passion. I don't want to end up at the wrong space not doing what he's called me to do. Because it's funny, I don't know if you remember this, but you and I actually had this conversation in talking about forgot what the like catchphrase was, but pretty much it's whether or not I'm doing like God's work, right? And knowing that like I mean, obviously he's put a passion and a purpose in me. And so, and knowing that like my purpose is, well, like my passion is really my purpose. I guess that's really the biggest thing, right? So that like the reason why I'm here, the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing is for the kingdom. And I'm like, I mean, when I work for the convention center, when I work for, corporate or nonprofit, like, yes, one of the other nonprofits was a faith based organization, but it's like, how is that like, what is that really doing for the kingdom? And like I one at one point to kind of like ease my mind, I was like, oh well, like I do weddings too, and so like marriage is for the kingdom, and so okay, that like that's the thing, right? That's the thing. But then I realized that literally every role that he called me to prepared me for this position right now. And so I don't want to fumble that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even while in this current role, I'm like, I don't want to mess this up.
Yeah.
And so I do think that my element of being a workaholic is the fear of messing this up.
Hmm. Do you feel as though the fear of messing this up, do you feel as though if you mess this up, then there is no next step? Because, like you said, every other role prepared you for this one. Are you feeling like there is no next step, no future if I mess this one up?
So, you want the long answer or the short answer?
Give us a long one. Give us a long. We already 50 minutes in.
So the long and honestly, the answer is left up to my own mind. The answer is, oh, ain't nothing else. Again, I'm gonna be without a home. Um, I'm gonna be 40 years old, living with my parents. I'm gonna be a bum. Left up to my own mind,
Right,
right?
right.
But where I'm grateful, and we talked about this when it came to, the good, the bad, and the in between, when it comes to getting older, the beauty of where he's brought me through is that I've had so many experiences where he has flat out shown like your next step, your next thing. I actually put something in you before that thing even showed up. And so, can I just say the mother grin that you just had right now? Yes,
Hallelujah.
yes,
Ah,
baby. Yes, indeed. Even for this role now, I'm a member of the church. And I was not happy in my role at the time. And I said, you know what? I want to do events here. That was a throwaway comment. Okay, nothing is throwaway for him.
mhm. Everything is intentional. Mhm.
By the way, if you guys need any event assistance, my company is called Intentionally Planned.
It is.
So hire me, okay? I do the things. I realize that you that he places things and he plants these other seeds in knowing that as the time comes to an end in one place, that he helps to transition. And though it may not be easy, right? Like when planting, you got to get a little dirty. You may experience some rough situations, but he planted that other thing there. So the long answer is I know he got me.
Mhm.
It ain't easy though sitting in that
Right.
that thing be
It
uncomfortable.
does. It does.
And so I think that's the part of being able to remind myself of whew, you can lean on your perfectionism all you want to, but at the end of the day, you still gonna have to lean on him.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've actually recently gotten to the point to where I be talking to God, right? And so I just tell him, I'm like, yep, tag you it because I ain't got it. I'm like, I'm tapped out. And this is actually going to lead us into our next statement. So I'm gonna just like let this be the segue, because I am burnt out,
Mm. Mm.
and I'm like, like to the point to where I even was talking to Tori about this. Like, I was like, I don't know if I'm depressed or if I'm just exhausted. Like, no, like when I was like, I'm like, is
It's
she?
funny
Are you
because
laughing?
I was thinking that for me, burnout looks a lot like depression, and then you were like, I don't know if I'm depressed.
No, like real talk. And she, again, Tori and Toryism, right? She said, well, let's not go that far. Let's reel it back a little bit. Like, she said, that may be the case, but let's reel it back. She's like, how about you just take a day off and see if you just need some rest? And so I've had some days off, but I realized that again, the being so readily available and giving pouring so much out that I haven't really replenished myself in really what my body needs or what even what my spirit needs. And so I can say that I am in the process right now of figuring out like what burnout, because I think we burnout is such a negative thing. Burnout, it means it's like you can't recover, it's done, it's like literally burnt, you can't move forward. But burnout happens to the best of us, and so it's like how do you press forward? Because a lot of times we feel like with burnout we should just be able to stop and like have a major reset, major change, and that's not always what it looks like. And so I, for me right now, I'm figuring out how I can actually take care of myself through the burnout to kind of wiggle my way out of it with still being in such a busy season, um when it comes to events and programs. So what does burnout, well, I mean, you said it looks like depression, so what does, like, how does that show up for you?
I do not move. I just stay in bed. Sometimes I don't even eat. I just stay in bed. I don't move.
Mm.
Um, I remember I took off and
Nobody. It don't move. It don't move. I'm sorry.
oh man, I remember I took off and I came back and everybody was like, "Oh, did you enjoy your vacation? What did you do? Did you go anywhere?" And I was like, "No,
Absolutely
I
not.
didn't go anywhere. I didn't do anything. I stayed in bed, like, and rested."
Yeah.
And I realized I needed that rest. I think I'm doing a lot better this year with work life balance. Um, just saying, hey, sometimes I just have to work late. That it is what it is. But
Yeah.
for the most part, I do be trying to get off on time. I try my hardest.
Yeah.
um, and I think I'm doing a whole lot better. I mean, I remember moments where I was working till 6 a.m. I would go to bed for 30 minutes, get back up, and go back to work. Like, oh, those were hard days. oh man. But yeah, I'm doing a whole lot better, and I'm hoping I can keep it up because I do need to take care of myself. I do need to, I had a whole sobbing moment our last episode where Tanisha
Yeah.
and I promised that we would go out and live, and we ain't did that yet. Like, I'm like, you're right. We don't live in a town where we.
No, no, no. I had a birthday dinner.
Oh, you did. Okay, that's fair. I wasn't there. she did have a birthday dinner, but I wasn't there. So yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, oof, I gotta start taking care of myself. I gotta start eating. I gotta like work out consistently. Even my little puppy's getting pudgy because we're not going on our walks like we need to. So
Buddy.
yeah, so I'm working on that work life balance. I am working on it.
It's so interesting that you kind of ended with that, and when it comes to the work life balance, because Tori and I were actually messaging the other day, and she was just kind of just doing a general check in, and she asked me how I was, and I was like, I'm exhausted.
Yeah,
And first of all, the old push through Tanisha would have been like, I'm fine. It's okay. Like, it's busy right now, but I'll get through it. And I was like, nah, I'm exhausted. So, but one of the ways that I've been, and what's been helpful for me is like managing the exhaustion is those two things that you just mentioned. Like, I'm working with a nutritionist, and because um she ain't cheap, it's helping to keep me
yeah,
accountable. However, being able to like, so it's an app that we use, and I have tasks that I have to do each day, and there are two main things that happen daily, and that is my calorie intake and some type of physical activity. It's been able to kind of keep me in this workaholic process and helping me really build towards having like a work life balance. I my work life balance is trash. Like, there is none. My sweet work bestie asked me a few weeks ago, a month or so ago, in such the sweetest and sincere like way. She said, "Do you have friends?" Shout out, Sam. Thank you. Love you. Bye.
wow.
Yes, I have friends. I said,
Wasn't she?
you met them at my birthday last
Yeah,
year.
I was like, wasn't she at the birthday party?
Yes. But what she meant was, how are you having relationship with these people? And I was like, oh, wow. And so we were actually just laughing about it today. And one of the coordinators, because I love to like mess with Sam, whenever, because she asks really good questions, and so like they can be very frank sometimes, and they're hilarious to me. But like they're good like wake up calls, and so I said something about it today, and the coordinator was like, "You asked her that?" She's like, yeah. I mean, that's not like what I meant. What I meant was, and I was like, I know exactly what she meant, and it's absolutely true. Like I think we take for granted the relationships that we have in our lives when we are unbalanced. And I'm only saying this because, again, me, you, same. I actually recently had a very tough awakening, in that sense, even beyond friendships, but with really with family. And here's also a vulnerable moment. And if I cry, come through the screen and punch me. Okay, thank you. And so,
Mm.
no, I will not do that. No, I did not sign up for this. No.
That's not what this is about.
No, calm down, simmer down. But no, I went home to Kansas City. KC girl over here, Midwest girl living in this Texas world. I mean, yes. So proud of my hometown, y'all. And this is before we started winning things. So um so I'm sorry, Tina's face right now. She's shaking her head because she's again had to hear this since 2001. um so um my grandmother, my maternal grandmother, is my only living grandparent. My grandfather, who was literally the best man to walk this earth, can't nobody tell me different. We lost him 3 days before my 18th birthday, so May 11th, 2004. And so, life is life. And again, all of my mom's family pretty much lives in Kansas City. Like even my older brother, my nephews, like it's like that's why Kansas City will always be home for me because that's where my people are. And so I hadn't been home. And I could easily say it was the pandemic, it was this, but even pre-pandemic, I was so again focused on work and focused on I was married at the time. It was, my family, it was all of these things, busy with Eastern Stars. Like it was all of these things, but honestly, those were all excuses. And I knew that my grandmother had I mean, she has dementia, and so her health has gotten worse. And so I knew I was going home to work technically. I was going home to do a baby shower for my cousin. And so I knew that I had to actually drive because I was taking some inventory and stuff up there. And so I was like, this actually works out well because Kansas City is kind of spread out. And so me being able to drive allows me to go and kind of see whoever I need to, without having to like be a burden on other family and stuff or being chauffeured around the city. So, so I knew that going to see my grandmother was a priority for me. It was baby shower, some other cousins, grandma, like that. Those were the goals for me driving to Kansas City. And so I get there and baby shower was great. Went to go and see another cousin the day before, and wanted to check on her and her health and stuff. And there was an aunt that I knew that I was going to be seeing, and her health hasn't been great either. And she's kind of the invincible aunt for me. And I knew that her health has been impacted, but visibly seeing it was completely different. I should have grabbed some tissue. um,
We're becoming that podcast.
yeah, this is dumb.
No, no, it's that. You're being vulnerable.
Yeah. And seeing her, she don't cry. She started crying, so I started crying. I'm like, girl, we can't do this. Because she didn't know that I was gonna be there. But seeing her even that emotional, um, you know, just it just brought out just a lot. And so like that happens, and then I'm like, okay, I still gotta go see grandma. And she has dementia. And again, we've lived in Texas for a good amount of time, but that's my granny ma, right? Like, it's a lot of us, y'all. Like, it's a lot. It's like 27 first cousins. It's like that many. It's a lot of us. And so, and it's majority girls. Like, it's a big family. And so going in, I wasn't honestly, I don't think I even thought about whether or not she was going to recognize me or not, because it's never been a thought process. Even though you know that's what dementia is, it's still like, or Alzheimer's, with both of them, right? You know that there's that chance, but that didn't even dawn on me. And so, um, I walk in, and my oldest brother is 12 years older than me. And he lives there, but he hadn't seen her in a while either. And so she recognized him, and I came in after him, and she didn't recognize who I was. And so
Mm,
that really hit me of like, it's not that I took it personal, because again, this is the disease. It's not
right.
who I've been. It's not the love as a granddaughter. It's not any of that. But if I could be with her more, it may it may have current memories for her that may help her. You know what I mean? Like, it may help us. It maybe may help me. Maybe that's it. Um but it was interesting because I sat next to her, and it felt like when I was little. And I'm not gonna say that I was her favorite, but oh no.
Those are fighting words in family. Those
Well,
are
no,
fighting
no, no. If
words.
you said that you were Pawpaw's favorite, that's fighting words. Grandma, my
Okay.
grandma, she's, a little spunky. She a little fighter. They'll be like, okay, you got a shame. But my grandma and I don't have all of those same experiences that a lot of my other cousins had. And I think part of it, of course, being the cousin that's out of town. But then even when we lived there, when we were a lot younger, or when we were younger, I don't know, my grandma and I just always kind of spoke this like sassy little language. And I don't know, we just always gelled. And I was also terrified of her, so like in a good healthy way. So it just it was a good balance. It worked out well. But it was interesting. I ended up showing her, which is one of my favorite pictures. Neither one of our faces are in it, but it's at for my wedding, and she's holding my hand. And my grandmother has beautiful, natural, like long nails that she's always like painted herself. And so, like, that picture is my favorite because, like, it's just such a representation of her. And so I showed her, and I was like, and I was showing her a few other photos. And I showed her, and I was like, do you remember this? And she said, I do. I was there.
Oh,
Oh, I broke down and cried. I was
of
like,
course you did.
I was like, Grandma, and then here she goes. She's like, baby, you need to keep one of these on you. She handed me a Kleenex. I was like, I know, yes, ma'am. and so
Oh, what a precious moment.
and so it was just like, and I showed her a few more pictures, and it was her kind of going in and out of the conversation because another one of my cousins was there. And so she's one of my like favorite big cousins. And so she kept saying, um, and I'm gonna just say her name. She was like, and that's Risa, and I'm like, yeah, I was like, she's like, do you remember Risa? And I was like, yes, ma'am. And so we start talking about something else, and then she was like, and you remember Risa, right? And I was like, yes, ma'am. And so it's like you can see the innocence and how her mind is just constantly changing, and how yes, she's not my grandmother that I grew up with, but she's still that same little sassy old lady, because trust me, she was still talking stuff as we were sitting there, and I was like, yep, that's the rosebud that I know. And so it's helped me to put things into perspective
Perspective.
that, okay, being a workaholic, what does that get you? Because your grandmother doesn't remember you. So it's like, even beyond the illness, it's, I have a ton of niece or nephews. I have one niece, but I have a ton of nephews and a niece and godchildren. And what is any of that going to give me with them? Like, I don't want to miss anything with them. And so it's like, what is the priority?
Right.
And if you're saying that your workaholic traits are coming from a sense of survival, if you're not here to even have anything with these people that you say that you love and you care about, what is it all for?
Hmm. Yeah, that's a revelation.
Well, I don't want to talk no more. We can just go ahead,
I mean, this has been a full one.
I mean, and here's the best part: we're not even really done. We still got one part.
Oh, we do?
It's,
What?
it's the easy part. It's the easy part. It's just really to talk about resources and recommendations.
Okay.
The number one thing, I mean, therapy, people. I mean, Tina and I talk about it. I mean, therapy, because I don't even think that who you and I have been over the years, I don't think we could have put any of this language together. I think we would have still been in denial about being workaholics. Oh, absolutely. You're laughing because you know it's true. No, absolutely. Absolutely.
It's totally true.
Because it's like, we gotta grind, we gotta make it, we gotta do this. Like, that was our language, instead of now being like, no, that don't make no sense.
Mhm.
So I think therapy is definitely one big one. And then I think some other resources is like helping you find that language, but then also being able to kind of help you navigate through it. I think one of the things, and we've kind of talked about this, is knowing, that he's calling you for a place, calling you for a time, calling you for a chapter. We talked about that a lot throughout the episode. And if you are, I don't care how young or old in your faith you are, um, growing the muscle of discerning God's voice is, baby. Whew. I have the audiobook of Discerning the Voice of God by Priscilla Shire. And that's probably my most played audiobook, because it has some really good reminders of like
Yeah.
what helps you to keep things in perspective. Um and there are good moments, like there were so many revelations, even though, like, in the last time that I listened to it, that helped me to like even hone in further, into like not only just knowing it's God's voice, but trusting yourself with that voice, right? and
Mhm.
in knowing and trusting in the small ways. And so another thing, we talked about burnout. There are some really good resources. I want to make sure I say this website correct. So there is a actual burnout self test that I will put it in here. But I think beyond having that test, I mean, you yourself may know, you may or you may not know. So definitely do that. But I think that there is a another article that's with Everyday Health that has some really good resources. And I'm just going to read through. I think they have five. Number one, it says to reframe your mindset in terms kind of like what we talked about into how you're looking at your mind or looking at your burnout and how you're looking at your role in your job. Number two, it says making time for self-care. Self-care is a buzzword. We've turned it into so many things over the years, but your self-care looks different from everyone, so you've got to kind of really determine what that really looks like. Number three, you ready for this one?
Uh-huh.
It says ask for help.
Oh, that's big.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Ask for help. Yeah. A lot of times, especially you talked about this with Black women, we've got it work 10 times harder. Asking for
Mm-hmm.
help is a sign of weakness because that's what we've been taught. So
Mm-hmm.
we've got to retrain our brains that
Yes,
it's
we
okay.
do.
Yeah. So that's number three, girl. Woo! This is the one that you're
Yeah.
going to crack up about. So I need for you to hold on to your table. You ready?
Okay. Holding on.
Maintain your social life. They're childish. They're petty.
Mm.
Crazy, right? Yeah. And then the last one, which I think is, whew, this might mean to be just a whole other topic in our next season, is set boundaries. I,
Mm.
I don't,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, I still need to be taught better way for better boundaries. So, yeah. So yeah, so I'm gonna we'll have the link accessible for the burnout test as well as the everyday health um article that kind of breaks down each of those five tips. Tina, anything else you want to add?
Do we want to ask the people?
Oh yeah, yeah, girl, I done got so tired and emotional from all of you know what y'all got? No, what y'all got? Because we ain't got nothing else. No, tell us. Are you guys um does your career actually look like what you thought it would be? Are you actually working in your passion and your purpose? And if you're not, how are you still being able to tap into your passion or purpose? And then we just gonna leave it wide open. I mean, burnout, work life balance, how?
How?
That last conversation, just the question is how, because we are still learning it, obviously, as you can see from our conversation. Yeah. Anything else?
No, that's it. That's it.
Well, we are excited to say though, we have one more episode in this season. Because what we tell y'all, we got seasons now. We got seasons. And this next episode, we're actually going to be writing letters to our early 20s something selves. So, Tina, we got some homework to do, and we
Mm-hmm.
want you to do the homework too. So, you kind of got dual homework, okay? Answer the questions about your career. But while you're thinking through that, which is probably perfect timing, write a letter to your 20 something self. We say 20 something because, it could be 28 and a half, okay? that you was like, I need to talk to her. But either way, write a letter to yourself.
If you happen to feel comfortable with sharing the letter, please share the letter.
Yeah, do it. And if here's the thing, if you feel comfortable with sharing with us, but you don't want us to share with others, feel free to send it in. We can make it generic. We can make it anonymous, to be able to highlight your bravery with letting folks into
Mhm.
how you've grown or how you know you're going to love on yourself for the future. Because I think that is the important part. The biggest thing that I think I've learned from therapy is that you are not going through stuff by yourself, and being able to use language behind things is half the battle, because being able to put language to stuff helps you to be able to grow and go through it. So share, because
Yeah.
we are.
Yeah. It's okay. It's okay to feel your feelings.
It is. Feeling feelings is actually kind of fun. It sucks sometimes, but it's fun on the other end. Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. That's
Yeah.
what I tell myself. It's fun. This is real fun.
Oh
Oh,
man.
well, and until next time, guys, we'll see you for the season finale.
Yes. Get caught up with us, my friends. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye.